into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed and perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Then those who have seen what happened, told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him, but Jesus said, "No, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful He has been." So the man started out to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great news it had done for him. And everyone was amazed at what he told them. Self-inflicted pain.
Go ahead, sir.
So just real quick, concerning this part of the scripture, a man was possessed with an evil spirit. When I look up the word evil, it means unclean. Mm-hmm. Unclean is also defined as dirty or morally wrong. Mm-hmm. And morally wrong means unclean thoughts.
Go ahead, sir.
So the perspective that I know the scripture says that the man was possessed with demons and that he had a legion of demons inside of him. But I want to deal from the perspective of this story about having unclean thoughts. Mm-hmm. And we go back to this word, self-inflicted. Yeah. Self-inflicted. And when God gave me this word self-inflicted, it was at one of my most lowest points that this word came to me, self-inflicted pain. Because so many times we want to blame others for our pain. We want to blame circumstances for our pain. But the pain only came because of the choices and the decisions that we made. Yeah. So when I dealt with self-infliction, it started all the way back when I was 7 years old. And at the age of 7, I was molested by my uncle. So during that time, I didn't have anyone to talk to. I couldn't share with my family because I felt like my mother would go into an institution again because she suffered with being bipolar and major depression. And my dad, he was the provider and the worker of the family. So if I told him, I knew he would kill the man and I'll be wherever. Because growing up, me and my brother was passed from house to house, from family to family member, from church member to church member. And so not only did I experience molestation from my uncle, but also experienced molestation from other cousins who were male and female. And so when you have that type of trauma in your life, it begins to create thoughts. It begins to create emotions. It gets to begin to create feelings. And sometimes we don't know why we do what we do. We don't know why we act the way we act.
Go ahead, sir.
So even though the man who was possessed with demons, let's look at it in today's time, in a more 21st century time, as relates to unclean thoughts. Because yes, this man could have been possessed with demons. But he could be experiencing mental illness.
Yeah. It could be.
Yes. Could be. Yes. Could be. Due to a traumatic situation that caused him to become out of control. Our situations and our circumstances sometimes cause us to become out of control.
Out of control. Yeah.
And due to my experience growing up, it caused me later to become out of control.
Yes, sir.
For some, out of control may be addiction to drugs, it may be addiction to alcohol. But my out of control was my addiction to sex. And I couldn't get enough of it. And every person that I encountered, they couldn't fix what I needed fixed. So what I do, just like a drug addict, go to the next person to see if they can fix it.
Yes.
The next person to see if they can fix it. The next person to see if they can fix it. And so the truth of the matter is that because of how I thought about myself, had nothing to do with the experience. The experience may be one thing, but there's still a choice that you got to make.
Yep. Still a choice.
There's still a choice that you got to make. And I didn't make those right choices.
Go ahead, sir.
So that's just one experience of trauma in my life. Growing up, I had a grandfather who was an alcoholic, and the most traumatic experience that I had with that was when he chased me down a dirt path, me and my brother, with an axe that you chop wood with, and had to be rescued by my grandmother's landlord. Not only that, my mother came to me at the age of 13 and told me that I wanted to kill myself, you and your brother. She was about to poison us and herself because she couldn't deal with oppression and the depression and the oppression that she was experiencing. And so, even down to being molested, I can count 20 plus times that I've been touched inappropriately. I have been in relationships that were violent, where someone had to rescue me again. But through it all, I'm on top. I came out.
Well, God.
Yeah.
I came out.
Yeah.
But I want to give you that background when it comes to self-inflicted pain, because you are not what you've been through.
Yeah.
And you don't have to keep inflicting pain on yourself after infliction has already been inflicted upon you.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
And this is what this man who was possessed did. He became something that he was not born to be.
Right. Right.
He was howling. That means he was acting like an animal. A wild man.
Yeah.
Then he was cutting himself. And if you know much about people who cut themselves, they're cutting themselves because they're trying to relieve the pain.
They are.
They're not trying to remember what happened to them,
Even
Trying
though
to
they're
take the
cutting.
pain.
even though they're cutting
Even though
themselves.
Yeah, even though.
So they're out of sight and out of mind. So Jesus asked a very important question. What is your name?
What's your name?
He spoke to the Spirit and said, what is your name?
What is your name?
What?
This is an important question that Jesus asked the Spirit in order to properly address the issue. You know, so many people are trying to cast out devils, but they don't know what the type of devil they're casting out.
They don't even know what it is.
Don't know.
They don't even know the type of spirit that they're working with, but yet they're trying to cast it out without first identifying what that is.
Yeah.
And when I looked up the word legion, it's actually a militant word that armies and military use. So therefore, if legion is a militant word and it related to the number of demons. So in other words, there was a war going on
In the
in the
mind.
mind of this man.
Come on. Come on.
Wow.
That's where the enemy starts. Here.
Where he starts.
He starts in our mind first, and then everything else outwardly becomes as a result of what's going on in your mind. So it is important to identify the thing that works against you in order to get the proper help that you need.
It is.
Say that again.
Yes.
I'll say it again. It is important to identify the thing that works against you in order to get the proper
Proper
help
help.
that you need.
You have to identify.
You have to identify.
Yeah.
You have to identify. And the amazing thing about this man, even though he was possessed, the enemy knew who Jesus was,
Yep.
but there was still a part within the man, I believe, also recognized who Jesus was, and he knew that Jesus was his answer.
Yep.
Jesus was. We want to come. You're preaching on us, just what I'm saying.
And he ran to
He
Jesus,
ran to him.
bowed down to him, and the demons spoke out of him. They was willing to let the man go, but they didn't want to go to that place. So they preferred to go somewhere
Go
else.
somewhere else. Wow.
So, this is a video, and it may not play, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And the question is, what is the thing that is embedded in your mind? When we go through different situations, there is a thing that is being embedded in our minds. And the function of your subconscious mind is to store and retrieve data. So it's in your subconscious mind that the war is taking place. And it's also the place where all these experiences in life are stored. And they also can be retrieved at certain moments, like I would like to call those triggers.
Yeah.
Talk about
There are things, there are smells, there are pictures, there
That
are
is so
things
true.
that will trigger you to remind you of what's been stored up in your mind
Mm-hmm.
concerning what you've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And it will cause you to have those same feelings, those same
Yes.
emotions,
Yes.
and all of those
Yes.
things
Yes.
all over
All over
again,
again.
which then begins to lead to those unclean thoughts
thoughts.
about yourself.
Yeah.
It's also the job of the subconscious mind to ensure that you respond exactly the way you are programmed.
wow.
We were created in the image of God to do a certain thing, but Adam failed.
Mm-hmm.
So we got deprogrammed.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus came on the scene to give us the opportunity to be reprogrammed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the job of the subconscious mind is to respond exactly the way you're programmed. So we are created, we are built by our environment.
Yeah.
There's a thing in education that talks about in parenting called nature versus nurturing. Nature means that you are shaped by your environment, by the people that are around you, whether it's peers, parents, politics, government, whatever it is, religion. All those things shape you. And then there's nurturing. These are things that you learn directly from your parents and how they bring you up and how they teach you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're programmed a certain way, then you begin to act that way. Your subconscious mind makes everything you say and do fit a pattern consistent with your self-concept. So it also deals with you how you see yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself?
How do you see yourself?
And the unconscious constantly communicates with the conscious mind via our subconscious and is what provides us with the meaning to all our interactions with the world. As filtered through your beliefs and habits, it communicates through feelings, emotions, imagination, sensations, and dreams.